it was just surreal to be out there, and thinking about it now, it's just, it still gives me a little bit of goosebumps. It was I can't really put it into words, as you can tell, but something that I won't forget.
Hey guys, it's producer Ross here, and welcome back to another edition of Ross Meets, the series where I catch up with former Town players and talk about their careers from the ups to the downs and everything in between. Once again, hope you all are keeping safe and well in self-isolation. Another week down in lockdown, and it's been another beautiful week in the sunshine. I've enjoyed it, hopefully you all enjoyed it. I'm working on a bit of a tan at the moment. The sun is doing me very nicely indeed. I'm enjoying lounging in the sun and enjoying it. And but here I am, bringing you the 8th episode of the Ross Meets series. Hope you've enjoyed it so far. I want to say thank you to everybody who's listened to the previous episodes. It's been a pleasure to bring you these during the lockdown situation we're in. And hopefully they brought you memories. Hopefully you've enjoyed them during your walks, your runs, or just chilling on the sofa. Just something to listen to. So if you're one of those people, how you doing? Hope you're doing all right. But yes, here I go, the 8th episode of the series, and I have my first goalkeeper, which is in form of Scott Loach, and what a pleasure it was to speak to Scott about his time at the club. It was great to chat about his career as a whole as well. He's had a very interesting career from his early days to playing at Watford, where he made a name for himself at Watford and did really well there, and spoke about different moments during his time there, different managers, and of course receiving his first England senior call-up, which is fantastic for him. And he spoke about his memories of that experience, training alongside some of the big names like Steven Gerrard, John Terry, Frank Lampard, Wayne Rooney, and just spoke about his memories and experience of that, which is fantastic. And then, of course, him joining Ipswich, his boyhood supporting club, and spoke about his early days at the club, and he was actually at the academy as a young lad, and spoke about how he became a supporter of the club in the 90s, and then now as a grown-up lad, playing for the club, which, must be a surreal moment for him, coming back to the club and playing, which is fantastic. But, of course, it wasn't as successful as he was hoping it was going to be. He had, of course, Paul Jewell as manager, then Mick McCarthy came in. But he spoke about his memories, his different moments he had during his time at the club. And, unfortunately, of course, Scott has gone down the leagues since he left the club. Of course, he joined Rotherham and had different spells at Notts County, a good spell at Hartlepool, and now he's at Barnet under a man who's been on this series already, Darren Curry, who's manager at Barnet, and spoke about him sort of reconstructing his career. And it was just great chatting to Scott. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know what you think, and let's get right into this interview, because I'm rabbling on now, and I think you guys want to hear it, don't you? So let's get right into this interview, and let's hope you enjoy it. Did you always want to sort of play football when you were a kid and stuff?
Yeah, I did. My earliest memories of my dad used to run he was like a site manager of an old school, which was kind of split into two. And one the site that we managed to live on had two or three old glass tennis courts, which weren't used anymore. So I remember it being a five-a-side goal home, and we had like our own little five-a-side pitch, and there was, I think from the age of 6, so as early as I can remember, I had kids from all over that used to come and play, because my brother's a couple of years older than me, so I was always playing with older lads, and the kind of obsession started then, really.
Did you always want to be a goalkeeper, or was it, at that age you just want to do anything, don't you?
No, I actually came to Ipswich on trial at Ben Lane as an outfield player. Yeah. And I think was it Colin Suggett, the scout? I think he might have been the scout, and one of the goalkeepers got injured, so I went in goal, and it was one of them games where I can always remember I dived the wrong way and it hit my feet and stuff like that, and because I was just diving at people's feet, you as a kid, you're a bit fearless. He turned around to my dad and went, "He's a goalie." So whether that was a compliment or a negative, I still don't know to this day. But then they invited me back training with Malcolm Webster then on Monday nights. So I was a goalkeeper from the age of 8.
How long were you at Ipswich? Because of course I think you grew up. Did you grow up in Essex, or you were born in Nottingham? But you.
Yeah, I was born in Nottingham. My dad's job took us to Halstead, just outside of Colchester, and then I was there till I was 11. We moved back up to Nottingham for my dad's work reasons. So I was at Ipswich, obviously, from a 7-year-old to an 11-year-old.
Of course, that's when it's very much documented that your you became a big Town fan during that time because your dad were taking you to games. So it must have been great, being a fan, but also now playing for the academy.
Yeah, I mean, it was a weird one because obviously back in the die-hard Man United fan, do you know what I mean? With the Schmeichels, Cantonars, the Beckhams, that kind of team that grew up at the time. But obviously, living in Essex, we never got to go to games. So when I was at Ipswich and we started getting the free tickets that we was entitled to, and I think seeing Richard Wright in the flesh training when I was a kid, that was just like whoa, and that was like what made me kind of fall in love with the club and have I mean, I've been lucky that it's played a big part of my life, not just as a kid but as an adult as well. But that was really what got me going.
Where were you sitting?
So the Bobby Robson stand, that's where we used to get the tickets for. I've got some great memories actually, because obviously a lot of my family are Forest fans, so we played them on Christmas. It'd be interesting if you can find out the year around Christmas time. Because I remember my granddad and everyone, my uncles, they came down to have Christmas at ours, and we actually beat Forest 3-1. I remember Forest had Dave Besant in goal, so that's as far back as I can remember. So obviously I went away buzzing like a little kid, like massively buzzing. My granddad and all them in the car, not too pleased. I remember the 2-0 against Man United, and it would have been the Coca-Cola Cup back then when Torito scored.
Of course, yeah.
And then obviously the playoffs against Bolton when we lost. I remember going home crying in the car at night time on the way home. But it was, but there were some good games back then. I mean, there was some big players, some big teams, and being an 7-8-year-old, and experiencing that kind of up front and just getting them to see. But they used to train on the pitch, didn't they, as well, behind the Bob. I think it's AstroTurf now, but sometimes they used to train there, and your David Johnsons and your Bobby Petters, people like that, and it was just like, whoa. And as a kid, that people will probably be listening to me now that aren't Ipswich fans thinking, who are these players? But when you have an interaction with someone as a kid, that kind of stays with you forever.
Yeah, definitely, watching Richard Wright, the career he had at Town, and of course onwards, that must have been great for you. And of course, you moved back to Nottingham, you said 11, did you... Because of course you couldn't then stay at Ipswich because that's a long way to travel to go to just academy games once a week. Yeah. So did you straight away from there? Did you find a club? You went to Southwell United, I think it was.
Yeah, well, I moved in January, the Christmas. So I had 6 months left on my Ipswich contract, and I remember Forest were really kind to let me. It was kind of like a 6-month trial, kind of 6-month contract kind of thing that they agreed that I could finish it off with them, and then but I didn't obviously get accepted at Forest because they already had 2 keepers signed on. It was kind of a bit of a kick in the teeth because all I'd ever known is being in that environment. And I kind of fell out of love with it a little bit. I went to Chesterfield, but then obviously being at secondary school and stuff like that, I remember I was falling asleep in the car before training, because it just a workload of being at big schools and then going training. I just said to my dad, I've had enough. I kind of want to be a kid, and my dad was always good. My dad was not forceful in the fact that he made me do stuff. He was like, if we're going, we're committed. If we're not, that's absolutely fine. But it's got to be one or the other. And I just needed a break, really, just to enjoy going out and building dens. You know what I mean? Playing heads and volleys with your mates, stuff like that. So I was lucky then to kind of join Southwell United, which is my local team. But I was playing a year up. Because obviously at school, all kids of all ages play with each other, don't they? And a lad called Dan Wees, who I'll always, if I ever write a book, I'll thank him for approaching me and getting me back into football. Really, he come and said, "Look, come and play for us. You're good enough to play for our age group." And because I was playing a year up and kind of standing out, that's what took me to Lincoln.
I want to test your memory. Probably won't be. When you were at Ipswich, was there any players that you can remember who was part of your age group who went on to do anything, or was that too hard to...
Stuart Ainsley, so obviously I ended up going back to it to play with Jack, which was nice. I remember having a sleepover. I think my dad actually played for... Stuart Ainsley's dad was a manager of someone. I remember... So one night, I remember actually having a sleepover at Stuart Ainsley's and Jack's as a kid. Darryl Knights was in there. Who actually I played against in the FA Trophy for Hartlepool. I think he's at Telford now, or something like that. So yeah, it's good. He's a central midfielder now, which is weird because he was a little striker when I was there. But apart from that, I'm not too sure that too many went on to go unless anyone joined later of my age group. I'm not sure, but from my actual team, I can't really remember anyone that kind of went on.
Then Lincoln City came about. You went to their Centre of Excellence and then signing a scholarship there. How did that sort of come about?
Like I said, I was playing for Southall, and then I got invited down for a trial, and it was kind of out of Notts County and Lincoln, really. When you go somewhere and you kind of get a good vibe. I really like the goalkeeper coach at Lincoln. He was actually the number 2 goalkeeper at the time, but obviously, some clubs like that, they do 2 roles, don't they? Yeah, of course, to earn a little bit more on the side, and I thought he was a really good guy, and I thought the setup was great. It was one of them. It was a weird one because they had 2 keepers that were really highly thought of, and they were like adamant they were going to get a scholarship because I didn't join until that year before. So the lads, to be fair, some of them didn't really take to me because everyone thought it was written in stone that they were getting a scholarship and why they were looking at a keeper. And fortunately, I went in and put in some really good performances, and it wasn't. It was. I think it was only about 3 or 4 weeks the actual trial, and managed to turn heads and get signed up kind of straight away.
You had various loan spells during your time there. Did that help you as a player to go out on loan to a lot of the local teams around in the area?
Yeah, I loved it. I think what helped me was, it's changed now in football. I think as young lads back then, we had jobs to do, otherwise we were punished. And for instance, we had a boot room bonanza where at Lincoln, if you didn't do your job, you were locked in the boot room of the first team for 2 minutes, and all sorts of Vaseline, boot polish all over you. You'd come out. But if you did it, the pros enjoyed it. And I think with me, because I did it and got on with them so well and kind of enjoyed it, and kind of give a little bit back, they really liked me. And then I think going out on loan to play men's football, it kind of just came naturally. I thought, I want more of this instead of, it's nice to say you play for a youth team, but I think if you can go and get that feeling of winning and what it means to win early doors. I remember back then for Boston, I was getting like 30 quid a game. When there's money involved, and it really taught me as a young kid what it means to win, lose or draw at that age. It doesn't matter the level, because that's what we all play football for.
Yeah, when I speak to different players about their early days, and like, there's one player who spoke to me about, he feels when he went out on loan, his goals, because he was a striker, his goal sort of counts. When you're playing for the youth team, you're not really of course it's great, if you're a development and stuff like that, but it doesn't really count to winning 3 points on the line and stuff like that.
Yeah, I always find that. I say this about. I said this to a young goalie at Barnet this year, and he's gone out and he went to. I can't remember where he went now. Hendon, and he did brilliant. He got player of the month for 3 years, 3 months run it. Yeah. And I said to him it's not just going on loan. It's proving that you're the best player there. That why you are at a club. And I said it's also good to make mistakes, because if you drop one in the last minute and they score, it shows you. The next game, it shows you how you can bounce back, and you've got to deal with these, because sometimes you get little groups of fans that will start giving you a little bit of abuse and testing you and stuff like that. And I think there's all different sides to it. Whereas if you go into the youth team and you make a mistake, it's like, it's part of the development, or he saved a penalty, or he's developing well. And I think that striker who said that was probably right.
Yeah. Then, unfortunately, you weren't offered professional terms at Lincoln City, or were you? I don't know if I got my facts right.
It was an awkward one, because obviously Keith Alexander, they were great with me, Lincoln, but I kind of knew that because I was playing and doing well, I had a bit of interest, and they were trying to get me to commit, and I was kind of advised not to, because the move wouldn't have really happened, because obviously I could have been outpriced, or because I've not actually played for the first team, so I kind of held off. And then Watford came in, and I think Watford offered me a 4.5-year deal as a young kid, and I remember saying at the time, I was like, you can't expect me to sign a 1 year at Lincoln when I've got the chance to potentially go and do this. And so there's a little bit of a fallout at the time, but it's not something I regret, and everyone's all great with me. We're all fine on good terms now anyway, but it was offered in verbally, but nothing was ever written down and handed to me.
And you said you signed on that deal at Watford. Of course, at the time they were a Premier League team, but of course they suffered relegation. I think during your first season there, Adi Boyfroyd was your manager. Did you have much interaction with him? Of course, you're still young lad.
Well, it's funny because obviously I went down in the March, and they were obviously going for this was in the Championship the year they got promoted, so they were at a really important stage of the season. And I remember they were doing some shape play against Crystal Palace, preparing for Crystal Palace. And obviously we know Buffon likes to go long and stuff like that. I remember him leaving that to his first team coach, and he took me on the pitch. He went, "Right, you come with me." And I was like, "Right, let's see how far I can kick it then." And I was like, "Oh my God!" I just had to take goal kicks, and luckily that was one of my traits, that I could kick it far. And I don't know what would have happened if the first 2 or 3 would have just gone along the floor for pure nerves. But so I was in with them early doors. I mean, I was travelling. But it was bizarre. We was going to Wolves, we was going to Palace, and obviously I'd just been playing youth team at Lincoln or playing for Boston Town and stuff like that. And then the next minute I'm in the squad for these Championship games, and I'm with Ben Foster every day and training with Marlon King and Ashley Young and players like that. And that was the one thing I did respect about Buffon, is that he just threw me straight. He didn't care. He's like, "Well, if you're going to be a pro, let's just see how you deal with it." And it was like one of them as a kid. I kind of just took it in my stride. I didn't really think about it. I suppose adrenaline got me through. I started playing reserve games, and so I'd gone from playing for Boston Town and the Lincoln youth team. I'm playing against Bentner, Seb Larson for Arsenal, and then playing. I think we played Arsenal, West Ham, Fulham, and then Arsenal again in a week.
Wow.
And we won all 4 and only let them won. And obviously that's not down to me. We had some really good players in front of me, but it just reflects well on you that I've gone there in a week, and it was kind of like, wow, this couldn't have started any better for me. But again, I think adrenaline just took me through it. But I also think because they had that trust and that confidence just to throw me in and go, "Go on, then you're on. Let's see what you can do. We want you here." I think that kind of made me feel good instead of kind of putting me straight back with the youth team and saying finish your scholar off and all this. I think it just gave me an extra boost of confidence and helped me kind of get over the line.
Yeah, definitely. And then once again, I hope I got my facts right. And then you went on trial at Leeds. Of course, had their problem, of course, with administration and stuff. You went on trial there. How did that sort of go? Of course, you didn't end up going there on loan, but
well, I went after that the season. Watford was in the Premier League. I came back and I broke my foot in a really weird. All I did was dive for the ball because I didn't really grow. I was only like just under 6 foot when I went to Watford, and I just grew. They were saying that my body grew too quickly for my bones, and it was kind of like the best thing that happened to me because I kind of got to sit back and look at what I really needed to do and watch Ben Foster up closely and kind of see what I had to do. So for the first half of that season I was injured, and then the second half was about getting fit and stuff like that. And then it came to the pre-season, and Buffon was like, "Right, I'm going to send you on loan. We've got MK Dons that want to take you, or Leeds want to take you and have a look at possibly signing you." And I was thinking, well, you can't really say no to it, whether it goes right or wrong. You can't say no to Leeds. So I went up there and I did the whole pre-season. I played the whole pre-season for them. I was with Dennis Rice and Poyet. Went to Germany, played all the games, brought them over there, did really well. Got on really well. Like Jermaine Beckford, players like that, David Putton, they was all great with me. And playing at Ellen Road against Wigan, stuff like that, it was great. But then they went to administration, if you remember, so they couldn't sign anyone at the time. They could only sign players that were kind of under contract or been some. So Kasper Ankergren, I don't know if you remember him, the Danish goalkeeper. He came back because had re-signed for them because he'd been released the year before. They were allowed. I don't know some rules, but overall it was a great experience for me, which then sent me back to Watford, and they just kept looking to get me out on loan, which then they eventually went to the conference to Stafford.
Then you, of course, then had a spell at Morecambe, Bradford City, and then you sort of got your chance in the first team. And there was I want to go more to your league debut because you made your debut in the cup, but your league debut, and I'm sure you're ready for me to bring up because you came on in the 4th minute because there was an injury to was it Poom? I think it was in goal. I think I'll probably touch that. You got injured, and then let's go on to the ghost goal. That must have been a weird situation to be in.
Yeah, it's weird. I've done a few interviews on that recently. I think obviously everyone being off. Yeah. And this question keeps popping up. I keep saying the same thing. Obviously, I came on, and like I said about my kicking earlier, one of my strengths, but I'm not kidding you. I don't know if my first goal kick reached the edge of the box. Just pure nervousness. Yeah. I dust that one, and then they ended up getting a free kick that went out for a corner, and then this ghost goal happened, which is, to anyone that hasn't seen it, please watch it because it's bizarre. Yeah. And like I say to everybody, the thing that baffles me the most is not. I can understand I don't understand the linesman giving it, but obviously he's got a different view. But the fact that the ref is stood in the box and can see the ball's not gone in, I don't get how he's giving it. Yeah. So I've been on the pitch 5 minutes, I've hit a bad goal kick, and then this goal's happened. I'm thinking it can't get any worse. And then after that, I actually had a really good game. But it's just, it was the most bizarre start to a career you could probably ever imagine.
Definitely. Then you were pretty much first choice that season. Of course, Mackie Mackay was the manager then as well. How was he like? And of course, you had Brendan Rodgers as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I actually got injured. Before they put me in, I actually got injured. Again, they put it down to growing. I ripped a hole in my stomach, just diving. It was a really bizarre injury. Yeah. And then I came back, and Malky just literally, as soon as I was fit, Malky was kind of caretaker boss, and he put me straight in. So obviously, I played a couple of games, did really well. Came back. Then obviously, Brendan was in the crowd at Bristol City away. And he just came and said, look, I know enough about you. Enough people have said, I'm just going to play you. And to be fair, I was very lucky in the fact that I know you've got to create your own luck, but the managers at the time were just happy to play me. I guess Watford at the time, we were kind of a mid-table championship team. There was a bit of financial trouble here, like rumours of here and there going about, and takeovers and administration and all that. So I think they just thought, just play me and see what happens. So I was kind of in the right place at the right time when it came to being first choice. Which again just filled me with confidence knowing that I was going to play. If I made a mistake, I knew I could just go and rectify it the week after. And I think obviously learning from Ben Foster, he's one of the best I've ever seen do that. So it kind of just kept, it's like riding the crest of the wave. It's just one thing after another, which just kept me going.
What was Brendan Rodgers like as a manager? Of course, he's gone on to do pretty well for himself.
Oh, unbelievable. I've been lucky to work with some people, but he was so far ahead of his time. It was, first of all, I'd like to say he's great. I mean, everyone I work with, to be fair, I've got on really well. He's a great, really good person. His training methods and everything ran so smoothly. There was, I was very, very spoiled at Watford. I had some very good managers. If I had to choose out of him, Malky and Dicey, I couldn't really. They all had different methods, but they were all very good for very different reasons. I mean, Malky was one of the best managers I've ever had. He was a great person, and he put a good young squad together, which was a very enjoyable environment. Brendan was ahead of his time. I thought he was ahead of his time. And Dicey was just. It's funny because me and Dicey didn't always see eye to eye, but you knew what he was getting. Everything was organised, but he treated it as a business, which is what it is. But off the field, he was a great guy. So I think. I'd love to see him actually be given a chance further on than Burnley, because I think he's got the credentials to go on and manage a lot higher, because I just thought his organisation skills, and you knew what you were doing when you were doing it. And to be fair to Dicey, he knows what he wants, and that was, you can't ask for any more as a player.
Maybe future England manager maybe one day.
Well, you can never say never. I personally don't think that he'd be out of place if he went. Everyone keeps saying don't, but I'd love to see him work with a budget and see what he can do, because I feel like he's earned the right, and that's. I'm not just saying that because I work with him, but like I said, me and Dicey are best. He took me out of the team. Do you know what I mean? I respected him for the way he was as a manager. I think he's a great manager, and I just like to see football kind of start to give people like this a bit more of a chance, because I think he's earned his stripes more than enough at Burnley, and I don't think he'd be out of place at any club really in the Premier League.
Then I mentioned England. Of course, I'm going to bring this up. Of course, England under 21s. You won, I think, 14 caps. Of course, Stuart Pearce was the manager then. Of course, you're part of the European Championship team. Of course, you played in the final. Unfortunately, we lost 4-0. But I'm looking at the Germany team now, and wow, what a team that was. Or even our England team. We had some good players in there who've gone on to have good careers. But what an experience for you. To play for your country at this championships. How did that sort of come about?
I got the call at Watford just saying you'd been called up, because I think I was lucky at the time. I was the only young keeper apart from obviously Joe Hart was first choice. Tom Heaton's and Ben Elliott were kind of in and around it, but they weren't really playing. And then the only other two keepers playing were me and Joe Lewis. Okay. So again, I was kind of lucky. Like if you look at now, some of the young keepers about, like your Freddie Woodmans, your Dean Hendersons, your Butlins that have been. I was kind of probably in the right pool at the right time to get as many opportunities as I did. But no, that was great. I got in there pretty early, and mixed with that, got to work with Joe Hart, which again was unbelievable. I think he's, again, along with Ben Foster, for me, obviously I don't know what went on, but for me, I still think he's got a lot more to offer. He's one of the best goalkeepers I've ever seen. That might be a little bit biased because I like the lad and I've worked with him, but I think he's got so much talent. But yeah, to be around that squad, obviously, it was good to work with Stuart Pearce, with all my family doing Big Forest fans and stuff like that. And again, I didn't really take it all in. It was just kind of enjoy it. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, against Germany in the final, I probably had one of the worst games I've had in my career. I wasn't great. It wasn't due to nerves. I wasn't nervous or anything like that. I just didn't have a good game. I'm not ashamed to admit that. But what nobody can take away from me is the fact I played against them players in the European final.
Of course, like Joe Hart was first choice in that tournament, but of course he was suspended for the final. So you must have gone, oh wow, I'm actually going to play here. And Manuel Neuer was in goal for Germany. What was that like, being in the tunnel, looking at him?
Well, it was weird because I got to play because Joe got booked in the first game in the group. Obviously, we won the first two group games, and then the last group game was against Germany. So Pearce actually made a lot of changes and started me in the group game against Germany. And me and my friend, when we, this was before my marriage days when I was mad on FIFA. Yeah. I always used to be Schalke because they had like some good young strikers and they were quick. And also I remember Neuer, and I remember standing next to him in the tunnel thinking, oh my God, you are mad! Like he's huge. Yeah. He's like a fridge. And I didn't ask for his shirt or anything like that then. And then obviously when we got to play the final, I thought, I'm not making no mistake, I'll ask him, and he was kind enough to give it me, even though he just won something in it. So that's something that I'll obviously keep forever as well.
I've got a team up now, Matt Hummels, Sami Khedira, Mesut Ozil, and Jerome Boateng. What a team that was. I know,
Yeah, I mean, to me, the Ozil and Khedira, we kind of knew who Ozil was because he was at Werder Bremen, and there was this big thing on him about being the top 10 up-and-coming players in the world or something, and he was like in the top 2 or 3. So we kind of did. So the lads kind of knew about him, and Khedira was like a fridge as well, like a brick wall, with just a big, efficient German. And when you're kind of a young lad and you see lads like that, you just think, wow, these just look, the complete package. And obviously they've gone on, and there's no surprise why they've had the careers that they've had.
Got a very surprising call up for the senior team back in 2010. How was that? When did you first find out about that?
Yeah, no, it was weird. It was a strange one, really, because I was actually in my flat in Watford at the time, and we had a Carling Cup. I don't know if it was Carling Cup, whatever it was called back then, the same Carling Cup, and we had Aldershot, and I wasn't due to play. Because obviously I played all the league games, and he was giving Rennie Gilmartin at the time a game. Yeah. And I got a phone call from Malky, who was obviously married at the time, because obviously we didn't have to report till like 5 to go and get on the bus and go to a night game, with being local. So I was thinking, maybe he's ringing me to tell me I'm playing, kind of thing. Yeah. And he said, "Are you sat down?" I was like, "No." Yeah, we'll sit down. He just said, "You're going with the senior squad tonight after the game." I was like, "What?" He said, "Yeah, Ray Clements has rang me. You're going to come sit on the bench for us, and you'll bring your stuff, and you'll get picked up and go straight to the Grove from there. I meet the England lads." So I was like, so obviously I remember getting to Aldershot, and to be fair, and to Aldershot, they actually did a thing on the when they did the team sheet. They gave an announcement, and I got a big round of applause from the fans. So it was nice. Yeah. They did that, and then obviously we won 3-0. I didn't play, and everyone wished me luck, and that was it. And on the way to the Grove Hotel, I didn't really know what to expect, and obviously getting there, everyone was in bed because I got there at like midnight. Yeah. So I was like, up to my room and stuff, and then I remember waking up for breakfast thinking, we've got to go down for breakfast here. And I was quite fortunate because obviously like Joe Hart, Milner, Kieran Gibbs, Walcott, Adam Johnson, they were all in the first kind of under 21 squad that I was in, so I kind of knew a fair few that was in there, so it was a little bit less like daunting. But then when you walk in that room and you've got John Terry, Lampard, Gerrard, Carrick, Cahill, people like that, looking back at it, and I'm just like fresh-faced kid. I didn't have a beard or anything back then. I just walked in, and it was like, whoa. But no, they all made me dead welcome, and I've told this story many times. I was sat with Joe and at breakfast, like when everyone had gone, there was like a little seat in there outside, and I remember sitting down on the table with Joe, Gary Cahill, and Stephen Gerrard. I was like, whoa. And I thought to myself, you know what, just don't. The easy thing for me to do, because they didn't train, because obviously, back then they used to have like the 21s game on a Tuesday, didn't they? And then the first game on a Wednesday, so they've obviously already done their training. So I thought the easy thing for me to do would just be to go back to my room and see them down in the hotel kind of thing before the game. But I thought I'd stay and make this opportunity, and then like Joe Hart, he got up and left. I thought, don't leave, because this will never happen. And then Gary Cahill got left, and then it was just me and Joe had to kind of sit opposite each other. And he could have easily just got up and left, He didn't. He sat there and he kind of had a paper in his hand, but he was talking to me and talking about football, and he knew a lot about Danny Graham, and he just knew a lot about Watford. He just whether that was his way of making me feel settled and just making me feel welcome. He probably didn't even realise he was doing it, to be honest. But he, that really something that will stick with me. When people are quick to label footballers, and especially with what's going on at the minute, people got about pays and calling prima donnas and that. They're good people, and when we got to the change rooms at Wembley, I remember John Terry. He came and sat opposite me and kind of put his arm around me and he was like, look, whatever happens today, just enjoy it. And these people don't see that side of them. They're just human beings at the end of the day, and they're just working in an industry that's, as fortunately for them, is very, wealthy, isn't it? And some people like it and some people don't. But I think that sometimes they get the misconception that these are bad guys, and they're not. They're just normal. Obviously, there's some that give a bad name, but I couldn't speak highly of how I was treated, and I was number 12, so it was weird how it was situated. So I ended up somehow on the end of the row, and then there was like a fridge on the corner, and then Rooney was the other side. So Rooney was next to me, and he threw his top down on the floor after the game, and I remember picking it up, thinking, "Can I have this?" I said, "Can I have your shirt?" He's like, "Yeah, fine." I was like, so I quickly took it, put it in my bag, and but then he was fine. He knew about Tom Cleverley and that at Watford, and obviously with his Man United history, but I couldn't say a bad word about anyone there. Everybody treated me well, and really not took to me, as in like everyone was just treating me like with the respect that you probably deserve for being called up, really.
Yeah. In terms, all those players you mentioned, did they no offense to you, did they know who you were and stuff, or where you're coming from?
I'm trying to think which time it was. One time, I think no, probably not at that time, because I'd not been, because we didn't actually have a game. But I remember the second time I was obviously called up due to an injury. Yeah. We played the night before in Germany. So that was the third. That was the third time. The second time was a bizarre one, because actually we had two important games to win for the 21s. Obviously, I played every group game, and we flew out to Portugal. And I'm not kidding you, really. If you landed, got our room keys, went up to the room, and Stuart Pearce was like, "Yeah, be down in an hour for dinner. You've got an hour." Yeah. And I remember getting this hotel in Portugal. It was lovely. Honestly, it was so nice. I thought it had kind of one of them bathrooms in it that you can see into the room. It's not like a separate door. You know what I mean? It was like a dead posh hotel. And I was thinking, I remember buzzing to my mates on text should see my hotel room. Literally sat down and got a phone call off Stuart Pearce. Went, "You got to come back down. You got to fly back to England to go to the first team." Oh, wow. So literally done all that travelling and been there for 10 minutes. So I came down, had some dinner, and then literally I was back on my way, back on a flight back to Heathrow. So I think by the time the second call-up came and I got to go and train with them and stuff like that, I think they all kind of knew who I was then. Yeah.
It must have been good for you for like Joe. Joe was the first, choice goalkeeper. It must have been great to be, joining up with him again as part, goalkeeping.
Yeah. I mean, Joe's just like a big Labrador. Yeah. He's just like full of energy and just a really, really good guy. I mean, one year I went on holiday with my friends to Vegas, and we saw him, and we bumped into him out there, and he spent the whole night. He spent the whole night in there with them, basically. Like, which he didn't have to do. He could have just kind of said hello and carried on what he was doing, but he really made them feel welcome. It was, my mates have all got pictures with him and stuff like that, which he didn't have to do, and he's just a really, really good guy. And then obviously the second time I went, I got with, he was there, and Ben Foster was there, who I worked with closely at Watford. So to actually go away the second time and be with them for a week or two and train, I was surrounded with two blokes, and not only I admire, but that I knew very well, so it made it a lot easier for me.
in terms of like, Capello, I don't know if you would have had any interaction with him or anything like
that. Yeah, he was fine. He didn't really talk to anyone, to be honest.
Okay.
It was a very strange, like, looking back on it now, it was, the way it was run was very, I don't know, maybe that's just the way the Italians deal, and the players at that level can kind of get on with it, but on a one-to-one basis there wasn't much going on day to day. He took a few team meetings and stuff like that, but obviously his coaches took the training sessions and stuff like that. But when you've got your Rooney's, your Gerrards and players of Lampards, and I guess it all kind of takes care of itself in a way.
And finally, how good is Wembley in terms of the dressing rooms and just the whole setup? I'm sure it's amazing.
It was weird, 'cause I played there a year before for the 21s. We played Portugal and won, and obviously there's 30. I think the whole bottom tier was full.
Okay, oh, wow.
Which was good. Obviously, 21s and actually playing on it and winning was like unreal. But then when I went back and we went, I think it was France when I was involved. It was full. Walking out, it was just like you couldn't see anything. You couldn't see the sky or anything. You could just see stadium and people. And that was like, that was the first time I thought, wow, this is actually something. Because when you're in an empty stadium, it's an empty stadium. It's like you don't really take it in. Not that it was empty, but obviously 30,000 in Wembley doesn't look full, does it? So, but going back again, and especially on a night game, it was unreal. It was a great feeling, and obviously to see the likes of Lloris up close and Benzema and people like that as well was something that was also good to watch. Yeah.
Have you, as you said, have you got the Rooney shirt hanged up somewhere? Have you got loads of different shirts?
No, we moved house about just under 2 years ago when we bought a project to kind of do up and stuff. So there'll be a few that I get up probably. His and Manuel Neuer's will be the ones that I'll be allowed up maybe. Yeah. So, but no, it's one of them things you kind of keep them for the memories, but kind of not grown out of it kind of thing. It's nice to look back at them. But yeah, I think his and Neuer's will definitely be the ones that I'll look back and be really proud of, along with my own. So
I was going to say that. Would you have an Ipswich shirt up there somewhere just to get one?
My missus' nephew's actually got my Ipswich debut one. I kept.
Oh wow, that's brilliant.
Yeah, so that shirt means a lot. But he's got a few of my shirts as well. Pass it on. I don't know if you remember when we played Birmingham. I took my three nephews on the pitch the year I was there, and I remember, that we're close to them as a family, and he's got the black one from the Blackburn game. I kept that and got it all signed by the lads with a silver marker, and he's got that. So people, there's a lot of people in my family that have got certain things which is just as good to me. They take just as good care of them as I do, but I kept that one. Funny, one of my favourite ones. I've got one of Richard Wright's Man City ones, which Joe got me.
That's good.
Yeah, just because of the history with him, really.
Yeah.
And then obviously I've got Joe's, and I've got a good collection. I've been fortunate to play against some good players, and hopefully I've still got another.
Definitely.
If this virus disappears, I've still got another hopefully 8-9 years to get some good memories and some more memorabilia stacked up before I finish.
And go on to yourself at Watford, just playing regularly. You probably thought I was going to bring this up as well. Of course, you're linked to move to Tottenham. Hopefully, I've got that right. What was that? Going for yourself. You're still a young lad and get linked to a big Premier League team like Tottenham.
It's a strange one because it'd been rumoured for a while, but then obviously I got a phone call at midnight the night before deadline day saying Tottenham going to put a bid in for you tomorrow. And when I went into training and it was all playing table tennis in the breakfast room and stuff like that, it came up on Sky Sports. I was thinking I've not actually heard anything. And it was a weird one, and then Melky pulled me in his office, and to be honest, you can look back now and say, and I don't know if you or people at Ipswich, people know my personality. I'm not a guy I don't get angry, I don't force things, I'm just kind of easy-ozy, do you know what I mean? I'm quite laid back, and I was happy I was thinking I'm at a championship club, I'm playing, so if it's going to happen, it's going to happen, but I'm in the best place at the minute, I'm just playing, I'm getting all this experience, I'm at a good level. I just signed a new contract at Watford. To me, it wasn't an issue to go and kind of force, but obviously looking back now, you can say, what might have been, blah, 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 this and that. but I don't like to look back and do that, because I might have had my wife and kids if I went down a different path and stuff like that. So it was a little bit surreal, but again, not one I really took in, because we kind of had a conversation there and then. It was kind of done and dusted within a couple of hours.
Then Zola came in at Watford, and then the move to your boyhood club. Turn a decade later, or a decade more later, you then joined Ipswich in summer of 2012. When was the first instance that you knew that they were interested?
Well, the first time I heard was the year before. Okay. Before you took Stockdale on loan, I think there was a bit of conversation going on between Ipswich and Watford, but I think Watford obviously wanted quite a bit of money from me at the time. Mm-hmm. I think Ipswich only wanted to pay so much, and which is understandable. Obviously, the business side of things I didn't really get involved in, so it kind of went away. And then when Stockdale was taken on loan, we always knew that the following year you'd still need a goalkeeper. Yeah. So obviously, when it came back around again, the pre-season started off really well. I was doing well, but I knew that he wanted to bring in either Kudicini or Almunia, which is fine. Which was I was fine with, but I wanted to go to Ipswich, and he didn't stand in my way. He helped me, and it was kind of. I think the lads were in Holland. Was it Holland? I think they went to on pre-season. So I kind of signed on the Thursday, but I didn't actually come back in till the Monday, because he didn't want me to fly out to fly back Friday, and then the lads were going to have the weekend off. So I remember I kind of signed on the Thursday, came down, looked around the place. Went down the marina and that one, the Mum and stuff like that, and looked at a couple of flats, and kind of was down there all day, and then got the job done, which was great. And it was an unbelievable feeling. It was kind of like, well, I've got 3 days, so I kind of went home to celebrate, really, if I'm honest. It was like a dream come true. So I remember going home, got probably the last time I could see my section before pre-season kicked in. So it was a great few days, and obviously the dream happened.
What was it like, your first sort of training session with the squad, in Ipswich Town training kit, and like thinking, wow, I'm actually...
It's funny, because I went out the Saturday night, and I bumped into Lee Camp, who's a goalkeeper, obviously, Birmingham keeper, and he obviously worked with Malcolm before, and he said to me, just be ready for Malcolm's training, like it's hard work. And I remember on the Monday, Jesus, he made me work harder than obviously Aaron Lee Barrett and the other keepers that were there, because obviously I had a few days off and was kind of a week behind everyone. I thought, oh my God. I think Chopra, he chipped me. Yeah, he did chip. Yeah, he scored. It was a great finish, and that was the thing with Chops. He had that in his locker, and it was kind of like, obviously Jason Scotland being a big loud character. It was like, welcome to Ipswich, and that was the biggest shock for me. Like I said, at Watford, we all kind of came through together. We was walking in the Ipswich dress that day, and I remember going back to the hotel down at the marina, thinking, wow, I'm in a man's environment now, and that was kind of not a shock, but something that I'd not experienced before.
Because there's a lot of characters in that that squad. We'll briefly just chat about Paul Jewell. Firstly, he was your first manager there. What was your first sort of interactions with him? In your early days there.
It was funny. He pulled me in. Said he'd inquired about me before. He'd liked me before, and tried to sign me before and stuff like that. And we got on well from the start. But then it was a strange one. I'll be perfectly honest, I liked him, but we couldn't really work him out. Do you know what I mean? But again, I'd come from somewhere where I'd probably been so comfortable, and this was a different shock. Looking back at it now, it was probably just a normality. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's just something I'd not experienced before.
Well, we'll go into your debut. We're going to maybe look at more of because you had two debuts, if you know what I mean, if that makes sense. You had the cup debut, and then of course you had your league debut. Luckily they're both at Portland Road. What was the reception like? I was only a young lad at the time, so I can't really remember myself. But for you, walking out of Portland Road for the first time,
the feeling was great. But I remember the Bristol Rovers game, but I can't remember the reception. I just remember the Blackburn game, because it was so hot. It was red hot. But I remember, obviously, in the second half, I went down. Obviously, I started the first half up in the end near the tunnel, and then obviously the second half went down. Walking down there and getting the applause from the fans was, amazing. Like, such a good feeling. It was just surreal to be out there, and thinking about it now, it's it's just, it still gives me a little bit of goosebumps. It was a great day, and obviously to play against Blackburn and Paul Robinson obviously being a goal at the other end as well, and kind of experiencing that. It wasn't just like you were playing a smaller team. We were playing a team that's been relegated from the Premier League as well. So it's just a great day all around. Red hot weather, good team. I can't really put it into words, as you can tell, but something that I won't forget.
Then your second league game, first clean sheet against your former team Watford at Vicarage Road.
No, yeah, it was.
Can't write that stuff, can you?
It was a strange one. I went there because it was funny because the first half, maybe I was actually defending the rookery end, which is normally what they do in the second half. Mm-hmm. So I've got a few pelters and stuff like that, and it was. I remember I came to punch a ball. Didn't get the best of connection on it, but it went straight up in the air. Look at it, I got the second and didn't really have too much to do. And then obviously when we scored the last kick of the game, I went mad in front of the Ipswich fans, which was, I can still picture it now, because some of my mates were there, people falling over the top of each other and stuff like that. It was a great feeling, and my reaction afterwards was probably went a little bit over the top, which I've apologised to Watford fans since, but it was, as a young lad getting stick all game from somewhere that you felt like you've done your all for, and then winning in the last minute is it's a bit like euphoria. Do you know what I mean? It's an unbelievable feeling.
Yeah. Then the next game, unfortunately, wasn't the greatest. I was there that day, and I actually watched the goals back before I got torn to, and 6-0 defeat at Blackpool. Defensively we were terrible that day, and conceding 6 goals as a goalkeeper, that must be horrible.
Yeah, it was a weird one because there was nothing in the game. I don't know if Cressy scored an own goal.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
And then it just was like, because I think looking from it, I'm always honest if I make mistakes. I think it was only really the last one where I came out and made the mind up for him to lob one over me. Mm-hmm. Didn't really have a lot to do. Yeah. And it was just like every time they came forward, they just seemed to score. It was just one of them days, and it was like, whoa. But stuff like that happens in football. I remember there wasn't too much really said afterwards. It was just kind of, we've got to bounce back. We've got no choice. It is what it is. We've got to kind of dust ourselves down and go again. And we're probably fortunate that it happened in the second week of the season instead of midway through the season, which kind of it gets forgotten about pretty quickly.
Well, Tom Ince, I think, scored twice that day as part of the team, and that's there. But we'll go on to now a happier note. That penalty save against Huddersfield, man of the match.
Moments in football, that
yeah. I watched that back just before we went on, and great save. Of course the post saved you a bit as well, but what a moment for you saving a penalty at Pawn Road.
Yeah, going back to 21, we used to do penalties after every single session. Mm-hmm. Stuart Pearce was big on trying to recreate tournament practice, and obviously Varney was in it with me, and he always used to go to the way that I saved it, and I just thought to myself, is he going to think that he's going to? You know what I mean? I thought he was going to try and think I was going to go the other way because he changed his mind, but he stuck to his way and I stuck to my way. And if you look afterwards, after the save, he actually comes and shakes my hand. Do you know what I mean? It's just to say well done. Literally before I take the goal kick, he comes and gives me a high five just because we knew each other. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think it hit the post, the bar, or on the line. I can't really remember what happened, but I think that actually made the save probably look better than what it was, if I'm honest. But no, it was a great moment for me. I think to do that the week after the 6-0 thing kind of showed. I think it showed a bit of mental, I could cope with, like I said, about coping with setbacks. I think you can kind of just park it to one side and get on with it.
I want to quickly just chat about penalties. That is the hardest thing for a goalkeeper. You just got to hopefully guess the right way, or you got to hope the other player will scar it over. But penalty wise, did you? You said with the under-21s you trained a lot, but did you do that yourself? Did you want to have a little drill sometimes just to practice with penalties? Because you never know when it's going to happen in a game.
It was weird because at Watford I had loads. I didn't save any until one of my last games. I saved one, and then obviously I came to Ipswich and I saved one against Huddersfield and Derby as well, and then I saved one against Barnet, funny enough, in the pre-season. Yeah. I was like, oh man. And then I kind of then had a really good record of saving penalties. And then I remember, Hartlepool I've saved a few. At Barnet I've saved one this year, and it's just kind of been, I've got my different methods now. I kind of visualise the side I'm going to go, and kind of like and just go as big and as powerful as you can. If he goes the other way, he goes the other way. But I think if you can narrow it down to 50-50 and say, right, if you go on my side, it's got to be a good penalty, and that's kind of how I look at it.
Do you try to intimidate the player, or do you sort of like, it depends on who it is, of course, do you sort of like just eye them up just to see, put them off and stuff?
Oh, yeah, I chat, absolutely. I'm not going to swear, but I chat nonsense, like, you try and get people, I mean, you can work for it, can't, I mean, this year I saved one, and it was like the 87th minute, so I just said,
oh, wow.
I said to him, I know you're going down the middle, it's a pressure penalty, you've got to go down the middle. and in my head, I knew he wasn't going to slot it, because it'd be too safe, do you know what I mean, in that kind of thing, so I kind of wanted to get the idea of going down the middle out of the way, and I dove to my right, he tried to whip it, and I saved it. You know, on another day, he could have actually rolled it down the middle, do you know what I mean? But I think it can go either way for you. I think if you chat stuff and you save it, it looks great. If you chat stuff and they score, you look like an idiot, do you know what I mean? So, but as a goalkeeper, you're not really expected to save them, so I think you've just got to do what you can to your advantage.
I just want to quickly talk about your back four in your early days. Of course, you had Chambers, Smith, Cresswell, and Edwards, at right back. With Chambers, of course, he signed the same summer as you did. Of course, he's still now at the club. Did you think that would happen? Would that be the case for Chambers?
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised he's not gone on again. As a bloke, as a player, as a captain. Funnily enough, I did my all-time five-a-side team the other day, and I put him in it just because I think, for me, he's one of the players. Obviously, I don't count the England stuff because I try and count players that I've played with week in, week out. And I think he's one of them that's got everything. You can play right back and get up and down, and delivery. But centre back, he'll do a job. He's got a goal in him. He's a great captain. This is just my opinion. Obviously, I think I could see it. I can see why he's played over 300 games for the club, but I'm also I could have seen why if the opportunity came to move on, I could see that as well. So I've not got a bad word to say about him really. I think I was very fortunate, especially under the Mick McCarthy era when I got back in, and we kept so many clean sheets. But I think with Stearman that came in at right back, Stearman came in, Chamber went right back, and we had Tommy Smith and Clezzy, then obviously Carlos went right wing. I mean, we had a great kind of span of a team.
That's really good, yeah.
Really good, and that was just enjoyable to play in. I mean, Mick was great in the way that I knew I wasn't for Mick, but he had no problems playing me as long as I kept my head down, trained hard, and he was true to his word. He said he had to play me, and I like to think towards the end of that season that I put the performances in for him. I think it was something like 8 or 9 clean sheets out of 16, which kind of speaks for itself. So we finished on a high, but that's also down to the back four that was in front of me, because, I mean, look at them names there, they'd get in. Obviously, the game's moved on, but back then they would have got in any championship tie.
Well, definitely Cresswell, but let's chat about, of course, Stephen Henderson came in. Of course, goalkeepers, you're battling against just another person. Like, you're not a defender, you're not a midfielder, so there's 2 slots there, but for your goalkeeper, you're number 1. Of course, Stephen Henderson came in on loan from West Ham, and, what was going on with that? Did Paul sort of tell you? That's a bit strange. Your first choice, and he's now learning.
He didn't tell me. And I remember having a conversation with him, and I went to see him, and I don't care what he says to this, but I didn't really get it. He said to me, I said, I was waiting for Hendo to play, and then I went to see him and went, look, I didn't want to come and see you because you've not made your mind up yet. Obviously, you've not named the team. Obviously, I didn't want to come and see you until you named the team. And he was kind of like, well, I don't expect you to anyway. And I was like, well, but, I want to play. And then he was kind of like, obviously, I'm glad you've come in. And it was like, well, do you want me to come in and talk to you or not come and talk to you? And it was a bit of a weird, it was kind of like, whereas Mick, I found that Mick said to me, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking Paul George, he had a great career and stuff like this, but, and he bought me and I was forever grateful. But I know with Mick, it was kind of like, look, Gerks is playing, you're not for me is like my number 1, but if I have to play you, I'll play you. And he did play me. And I don't think you can beat that bit of honesty, really. I kind of found it at first a bit strange. I wasn't sure what the reason was or why, but he's got to do what he feels right as a manager at the time, and that's what he went with. But regarding Hendo, I thought he was a great lad, and it hurt me a bit, but I thought if I can help him as much as I can, then, and you never know, you might be called upon, and you've got to be ready. And like I said, when I did get back in that season when Hendo was injured, I'd like to think, because I went about things the right way. I think that's why I put the performances in.
That's not bad in the championship. Having two quality goalkeepers like yourselves. Of course, Paul Jewell then got sacked. Mick McCarthy came in. What was your first? You mentioned him already, but what's your interactions with him like? He's a big character, of course.
Oh, he's a great guy. Yeah, he's a good bloke. That's all I can say about him. He wants to be treated. He treats you how you want to be treated. He shakes everyone's hand every morning before training. Again, he's just straightforward. I mean, with me, I understand, especially looking back now, like you just said, having two. I think you need maybe three great keepers in the championship. I think you need that competitiveness. You need the strength and depth. And I think my problem was that I'd always been so used to playing at Watford and kind of I'd never experienced that kind of number 2 / squad role. Obviously, looking back now, if I was, it's still a great opportunity. But obviously now, if you said to me, you come back to Ipswich as number 2, I'd be a completely different keeper. But you know what I mean? I'd relish the opportunity. Do you know what I mean? I've learned a lot from that kind of thing, and at the time that was just kind of a different scenario. But because Mick was so in front of me, I could deal with it, and I knew what the plan was going forward like that, and I could prepare in a different way.
Yeah, you didn't play for about 2 months, so to bring that up. But your first game back was in the FA Cup against Aston Villa at Villa Park. Yeah. Fortunately, we lost 2-1, but we did take the lead in that game. But Aston Villa's team they weren't mucking about. They had a pretty good squad. Shay Given in goal, Fabian Delph, Darren Bent, of course. Barry Bannon, Andreas Wyman came off the bench. Of course, he scored one of the goals. But what was that experience like playing this stadium?
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, I remember I made a couple of saves early on in the first half, and I had quite a good game. So I remember Mick called me afterwards and said to me, you surprised me that you did really well. Like, kind of not surprised him as in my ability, just surprised how I took to the game and stuff like that. And, you're not expected to win games like that. Do you know what I mean? It's just good to play in games, and I think you just got to go out there and make the most of it and enjoy it. If you get something out of it, you get something out of it. And I think to play in front of that crowd and go down the whole end and stuff like that and experience that, it's on par with other stuff I've done in their career, because that's what you play football for.
And I just want to bring out some more highlights during that season. Of course, a 4-0 win against Middlesbrough at Portland Road, a 3-0 win against Leeds, a 3-0 win against Crystal Palace. What are your memories from them 3 games?
And it was weird. I mean, I remember the Middlesbrough one. I didn't have too much to do. I remember I think Ledbetter had a shot from about 30 yards, but one of the really slow ones. Yeah. As a keeper, I was thinking, just hold it, and I did, and that's what I remember. But the Leeds one was funny because I think it was the Leeds. Was the Leeds one my first one back in, or was the Middlesbrough the first one back in?
Middlesbrough, I think. No, Leeds. Yeah, you had a month.
We played Leeds and Millwall over. Did we play Leeds and Millwall over Easter?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember we beat Leeds 3-0, but I must have had about 8 or 9 saves, and they were all ones that I saved with my feet or stuck. I remember Michael Brown stood me at a corner saying, "We'll get a chance." He didn't catch anything. He keeps parrying it and stuff. And it was one of them games where stuff just hits you and stuff like that, and it's a bit untidy. But you end up having loads of saves. I remember that, and we won 3-0, and then obviously Millwall was 0-0, which was always a tough place to go. And we went to beat Derby 1-0 within the space of a week, and I saved a penalty, so it felt like a really good return for me.
Let's briefly talk about the penalty against Derby. What that game in general is just a crazy game, because of course you saved with your feet. You don't really see that often for penalties. Being saved. What was your mind set going? I think Jamie Ward took the penalty.
Yeah, I knew he was going to. Again, I watched a lot of video footage, and I knew what he's got this penalty technique where he hits it just off centre and he just hits it as hard as he can. And if anything, I probably dove past it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But luckily, got my foot there, and it was at a crucial time because I think we was under pressure. Just made a save before that, and we probably had a look a little bit that game. But then obviously we went down. I think that was a sign of the team that we had men in that team all throughout the team. Darryl, like I said, Chamber, Carlos, people like that all throughout the team. And again, I remember scoring at the last minute, and the atmosphere in the change room afterwards. Because I think we weren't mathematically safe, but I think that was the game that we knew we'd done it. We knew we'd stayed up and and had that little bit of breathing space from the bottom 3 then.
Which out of the players, which ones did you really get along with, in the dressing room and even outside, of football? Did is there a few there?
Obviously, me, Chamber, we did see for McGoldrick. We were from Nottingham, so we travelled back together a lot. Again, can't speak. I think see Diggsy every now and again now in Nottingham, and I'm so pleased for him and the career he's gone. He's got the talent that deserves to be where he is. But probably him and Chamber got with him most. I didn't. And Tyrone Mings, I got on really well. When Mingsy came in, got on really well with Mingsy. He was a great lad, and you can see why he's where he is, because he didn't care where he was from or who you were or what you'd done, or no matter what he let people know that he was there early doors. And he actually came to my wedding, and he made the effort to come up, and which sticks to me. He didn't have to do that. He came up, and really, really good lad. Speak to him every now and again now, and I don't think it'll be long until he's probably the next one to get a half decent, if not a good move, and cement himself in that England squad.
Definitely. Of course, we had a lot of characters then. The problem with, of course, Paul Jewell's team, we had a lot of loan players, so it must be hard to sort of get a relationship with these loan players. Some of them, of course, going to be great characters, but it must have been hard to get a relationship. I think Richard Sturman, that was what a signing that was in terms of bringing him on loan. I want to briefly mention players I don't know if you want me to chat about them. Jet and Michael Chopra, they had their demons. Chopra, of course. What was that like?
Yeah, go back to Stairs. Yeah, my 21's debut was with Sturman. So
brilliant.
When he come in, we just got really well, which was nice. So we knew what our working relationship was like anyway. We used to see a lot of Chopra because obviously I'd just moved down there. Elliot Hewitt had just signed. I don't know if he was living with Chopra at the time, and I don't want to go into Chopra's life. He obviously was troubled and had stuff going on, but my God, what a player!
Yeah,
what a player! He had this ability to finish under any circuit. If he came out and made himself big, he'd slot it through you. If you went down low, he didn't get over you. You could see why he'd been on this amount of money he'd been on and been in the Premier League and stuff like that. Obviously, he let things get to him that I don't want to talk about. That's not my business. But as a player, he was phenomenal. But speaking of talent, J. Manuel Thomas, he was ridiculous. He had anything. Anything. I'm sure anyone that you speak to about him will say he had anything. He could hold 3 or 4 players off. He just had every single bit of ability you'd want as a football player. He was big, he was fast, he was strong, skillful, and again, I'm not sure why it did work for him. Maybe I don't know. I don't want to speak on his behalf, but you could look at loads of players throughout the Premier League or in lower leagues, and say why are they there, why are they not there, and vice versa and stuff like that. But to play with them too close up was, again, moving from Watford, where obviously I've been with good players, but then you always hear about these players, and you could see that. Wow, do you know what I mean?
I want to bring up another player quickly. Guren Endor, of course, another loan player. He was, in a way, for a lot of us fans, he was like a beast. And what was him? He he came on loan for that season.
I didn't have too much to do with him. He was really, really quiet. But God, he could hit a ball. I'll tell you that. It's like he just hit it as hard. It's like he kept all his quietness in him and then took all his anger out of the ball when he used to shoot. I remember that. But no, he was quite instrumental in that team, wasn't he? Came in, he was a statue, he was a figure, and I can't really remember too much about his personality, to be honest, because he was fairly quiet. But he was definitely good in that team, and it made his mark when he signed.
You name-checked Elliot Hewitt, of course, he signed, of course, then you both met up again at Notts County, He was highly rated when he, of course, signed for the club, and he's done it right for himself in the league football, what was he?
Again, he's another player that I think he could have held his own. I think he had a really bad hip injury when he signed. And I think when you have so much time out of the Championship, especially at that level, with the fitness, it's hard to play catch-up because them boys are elite, do you know what I mean? He came to Notts, and for me, for years, he was too good for that league, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But, I think again he's had a few injuries and stuff like that because sometimes people's bodies just don't cope. But again, his ability, his fitness, he's a strong lad. He was responsible on the ball, and probably his move came too early for him. I think if it had been the other way around, I think if he'd gone to Notts and played all them games first, then gone to Ipswich. He'd probably still be there, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But I think because he went there and he had the injury and he was always playing catch-up, I think that's probably why he went down the route he went down.
Yeah. Then, of course, the next season came along, your second full season. Of course, this was Mick McCarthy's full season, his first summer to sort of do some transfers. Of course, you mentioned Dean Gerken earlier. Did Mick sort of say that he was planning to bring in another keeper?
Yeah, I think he wanted healthy competition.
Yeah.
I had a good pre-season as I started. I made a mistake against, I let a soft goal in. It was not a mistake, just a soft goal I let in against Leeds. And Mick wanted to change it, and that's just how it is. And to be fair to Kirks, he didn't put a foot wrong. Didn't put a foot wrong at all. I think he had a very good season. I think he's a very good goalkeeper. Great lad to work with. Again, not hard. He would want to help me as much as I wanted to help him, and we've got on really well actually. Got no qualms about Gertz whatsoever. I think he was really enjoyable around the change room. A great lad, just very, very good company. That's what I can say. To work with him for a year he made it a lot easier for me not playing because he made it enjoyable.
Yeah, that must be good. So the goalkeepers that you had, because Aaron Lee Barrett was the first goalkeeper you had at the club. Was there any young players that were coming through? I think Michael Crowe was coming through at that time.
Yeah, Crowe, what a lad! Yeah. The most weirdest nationality.
Yeah.
He's Norwegian, English, Welsh. I don't know what he is. I think he played for Wales because he went there for an away game once. I'm not sure because I don't know what. I think he's at Preston now.
He is Preston, so, yeah.
Yeah, again, so much ability, but I think Chloe's downfall was he was so big for his age that people forgot how young he was.
Yeah.
So I think people expected a lot more because he looks like a man, you know what I mean, when he's actually very young. But again, I think for Chloe now, I'd love to see him just go and get a full season somewhere and just show what he can do. And he's still got plenty of time as a goalkeeper, but if he can start racking up the games and get himself out and about there, then I think that'll benefit him in the long run. Definitely.
You only played 8 games that season. Of course, you were transfer listed, and then of course you had your contract cancelled by Richard Sen. Was that in the works for a while? Did you feel did you and Mick having conversations about possibly?
Yeah, no, Mick was good with me. He let me know fairly early what the plan was, which was fine. Which obviously me and my wife, we were getting married that summer. The summer I left, so it's kind of made us start looking to move home and get a house settled and stuff like that, so we could start a family. So Mick was good like that. He didn't just throw it on me on June the 1st. Do you know what I mean? I kind of knew in the March really that we could put the feeders out there, but again he said if you had to play me, he'd play me and stuff like that. So again, my actual last 2 months at Ipswich, even though I was leaving, was really enjoyable. I knew where I stood. Do you know what I mean? I knew what was expected and stuff like that, and like I said, working with Gerks and the lads that were around there, everyone made it enjoyable anyway. So obviously the chance came up to go to Rotherham, which for me, well, I'm guessing we'll talk about in a minute, was probably the wrong decision. But at the time, when you get to move back home, and then I never lived at home and played football before, that was kind of my jump to the opportunity.
I just want to just quickly talk about being like a sub goalkeeper. That must be an interesting sort of thing, of course, frustrating sort of thing. What do you sort of think about? Do you think I'm not going to play today, so what
My mindset's completely different now. I mean, if I came back tomorrow to Ipswich, you'd see a completely different keeper. You'd probably see a more mature one. Without back my ability, do you know what I mean, and stuff like that. But I know now my role, because that's quite a popular role now, isn't it? And obviously, a bigger club for an experienced keeper. If I had to do that, I know my role around the training ground, how to help others. Because I've been lucky that a lot of keepers have helped me out, and I know what to expect now, and I know how to deal with it. Obviously, I'm a dad to be a 3 now, so I'm more mature. Obviously, it's a completely different role, different mindset to play in it, but I think you still prepare the same. You still approach it as a job, and you've still got to be ready. Obviously, like I said at the time, I probably wasn't used to that, so it was very, very. It was just a different feeling that I'd had from the previous years. Whereas now, looking back, I could probably still see myself. I probably could have stayed at Ipswich for another 2-3 years. You know what I mean? I've been around the club, and that's what I'm saying. If the chance came up again to go to a bigger club now, I've got nearly 500 games under my belt and be that experienced one, then it's something that in my career, it's what I want to do. I want to get back up to as high as I can.
For a few seasons we had Dean Gerken and of course Bartosz Białkowski. That was 2 at that level, that's decent, and both of them had to back that out. So, there's a lot of goalkeepers out there who are having to battle out with other top goalkeepers. This season we've got Thomas Holy and Will Norris. Will Norris on loan from Wolves, and it's it's been a lot of criticism on Will because he's made a few mistakes here and there, and like he's a player on loan, so people go, play Thomas. He's our main goalkeeper, but it's what it is really. It's manager's decision.
It's a tough one. I mean, I know Will. He's young. He's learned. He's shot onto the scene really early, and he got his move to a big club, and he's kind of done that number 3 role. So he's just finding the momentum of playing again, and I'm pretty sure obviously this coronavirus is kind of halted the season, but I'm sure if he was to be there next season and play, you'd see a lot more consistent keeper because he'd learn it. Every goalkeeper goes through it. When we look at Bar, for 3 years, he was how he never got Premier League where he was beyond me, and then he had a bit of a bad spell, but every keeper does it. I think healthy competition is good though. I think I do kind of like to think you should know who your 1 and your 2 is, and then your 2. I think if you've got a 1 and a 1, it's never good because that's just my opinion on it. I know competition's good, but I think you should know who your number 1 is and then what your 2 is. You look at De Gea and Romero at that level, that kind of thing. You've got 2 very, very good goalkeepers, and one's capable and always pushing the other one. But you always kind of know who your 1 is, if that makes any sense. And then if the 2 gets in and plays on merit, but I think if the 2 gets in and plays, he's got to stay in. But you can't just swap him in and out. You know what I mean? That's just how I look at it. Because the back 4 need consistency as well. Because technically you're collected as a 5, and I think it doesn't help anyone if you're swapping and changing every week.
Unfortunately, that's what's happened this season, and of course fans have been frustrated about it. But it's just one of those things.
Looking at Thomas as well, I'm not too sure how he's done that. He's had ups and downs or whatever, but he's come from Gillingham, and no disrespect to Gillingham. When you go to Ipswich, he's a big club, and I used the term when Mignolet went from Sunderland to Liverpool. It's okay doing it, but when you go to these bigger clubs, people expect more of you because you're playing in a bigger environment, and that's no disrespect to any other club in League One, by the way. I'm just saying that it's a bit different playing for Gillingham than Ipswich, in my opinion, and like it'd be a bit different for me playing for Barnet, playing for Gillingham. It's the demand of you's higher, and I think that's where some keepers come a little bit unstuck because the bigger the club, the bigger the expectation.
Then of course you moved to Rotherham, as you mentioned. Of course, newly promoted to the Championship. Steve Evans was the boss. Unfortunately, your time there wasn't as successful. You had made a few appearances, and you had loan spells out at Bury, Posh and Yeovil. What sort of went wrong there for you, do you reckon?
A whole bunch of things really. It was the wrong move in the fact that I rushed it to the Championship. Didn't get on with me, Steve Evans, Paul Rayner. Didn't get on with them whatsoever. I don't want to talk too much about them. I'm sure there's plenty of other people that have stories about them that you can find out about. But then at the same time, I was 26. If I was the age I am now, like 31, maybe I'd approach it differently. I'd be more of a man and just kind of think, right, the work, get on with it. Went to Bury, and I think my problem was I started to chase the games. After not playing at Ipswich and going to Rotherham, then fair enough, he kept the same 11 that won the playoff final, and then that's fine. I respect that. He stuck the lads in that got him the success. And obviously when I got in, I didn't really get that. I was taken out after 2 games. And then kind of knew straight away then I could see other players getting thrown in and out of the door that I'd probably be next, because it was kind of like a revolving door rather than have the money to just bring anyone in and out. So I went to Bury and I was kind of chasing the games. That's when I kind of started thinking in my own head, I've got to perform here, and I'll be perfect. Like I said, I'll be perfect honest, at Bury I just wasn't good enough. I just wasn't good enough. I think I had 3 games there, and 2 of them just weren't acceptable. I just didn't play well. I went and kind of struggled a little bit, and it gave me time to think mentally, what am I doing, what do I want here? And I was lucky then that obviously Jimmy Walker, funny enough, who's at your place, took me at Peterborough, and oh my God, filled me full of all sorts, and I had a really, really good month at Peterborough and played Yeovil in that month, and then they took me for a month after that and had a very, very good month at Yeovil. So it was, I was down 1 minute, and then it just shows that bit of confidence kind of gave what I needed to get back and play. And it was after that I thought, I've got to get out of Rotherham and just take the drop and go and play.
Like emergency loans, they're they're fit for goalkeepers now. That's the only thing that's allowed to happen for loan players. And you're an emergency loan, I think, at Yeovil. What's that like? That experience being like, oh God, you've got to go down there now and play.
Well, Yeovil was funny because my wife was pregnant, and we went down. I went down the day that I went down and played. I went down and played. Mm-hmm. So I went down from Nottingham to Yeovil, signed, went back to the hotel, went to the game at 6th place. It was like bizarre. You straight in, straight out. And I think I actually got man of the match that game. I had like 17 saves against Walsall. So it was kind of like the next day my wife came down. And we were due to go to the cinema and all that, but I was ill. I had the flu. I was so run down. From the journey down and then the adrenaline and stuff like that. But no, it was a great set of lads. That Peter ran at Yeovil, welcomed me in early doors, and I think because I got off to a good start with both, it was kind of like, I think as a goalkeeper, you let your marker down early. The lads takes you pretty early, and it was an enjoyable couple of months.
Definitely. Then Notts County was your next side. Of course, they were just relegated from League Two. During your time there, I think they had 5 different managers. Kevin Nolan, one of the main ones there. What was it like, your spell there, of course, playing League Two?
Well, Kevin Pilkington, the goalie coach at the time, he'd been after me the year, obviously, Bart moved to Ipswich. We were trying to sort of like a swap thing out. Yeah. But obviously I said to him I couldn't turn down the opportunity to go to Rotherham. And then I played against Notts County for Peterborough, and that loan spell did really well. And he was like, look, you come in this summer, we've got to make it happen. Yeah. And he kind of went quiet because Roy Cowell was there at the time. He was supposed to be leaving, but he turned around and re-signed. I think the chairman re-signed him without telling the manager or something like that. And but I still wanted to go because Pilk said, look, you'll get in. Roy's 39 now. You'll get your games, and once you get in, it's up to you to play. And then obviously Roy will be done at the end of the season. And I thought long term it'd be a good place for me to go. Obviously, being on my doorstep and stuff like that. And I went there. I did get in. Got in, did really well. Obviously, Ricardo Moniz didn't put me in. Jamie Fulton put me in, played, finished that season really well, went on holiday thinking that's it, I've cemented my place now, and manager got sacked while I was on holiday, and then another one came in and bought 11 new players and a goalkeeper, and that's how it happens, and it was back to square one again. So it was kind of like a bit of a kick in the teeth, because then I'd gone from playing every week for 4 years to kind of having 4 years of football that it's like I probably only played the equivalent of a year and a half's worth.
Yeah, as fans, as myself as a fan of the club, I always, of course, keep my eye out on different, former players, and you're always one. Not sad because I'm speaking right now, but you're always one player that I always was always checking where you're at, and I was just couldn't believe that you were playing League Two. I thought, no disrespect to League Two, but no disrespect to yourself. But I was thinking, wow, and then you went on loan to York City, and I was thinking, what's going on and stuff like that. And
yeah, I just wanted to play, Matt. I just wanted to. I mean, Kev came in, it was a weird one. There was a lot of us out there. Don't get me wrong, Adam Collins, very good goalkeeper. Again, great lad, great goalkeeper. Played, no wonder he's played Farmers League games. He's top man. He was playing, and I just said to Kev, I need to play. I need to prove to someone that. And I went to York, and I had, I think we went down on goal difference in the end, but I had a really good 9 games for them. And it was a weird one. I thought I didn't want to keep chasing it. I wanted to go and have a year or two of football where I knew I was playing, and that's when Hartlepool came in. I know it was conference, but I thought, it's a big club, just come play, and people might think what I did, but it was probably the best thing I did. I went and played 100 games on the bounce, and got double player of the year and stuff like that, and kind of just wanted to let people know that I'm still around, and not prove that the conference is too easy. I'm not saying it's too easy for me, and I deserve to be high, but I've proved that with my time over the last 3 years of football. 150 consecutive games and performances that look, I can still play week in, week out, and I can still play higher.
Yeah. Of course, that was when Hartlepool, because they've been relegated from League Two as well, and as you said, they're such a big club, and it must have been great for you to be playing regularly again, and then of course the player of the season 2 years in a row, and then the move to sort of Barnet came about. How did that sort of come about? Darren Curry, of course, I've spoken to for this podcast, former town player himself. How did that sort of come about?
Well, I had a few sniffs from the league because I did really well at Hartlepool. I think they expected me. It was a weird one with the contract. They didn't really. They offered me one, but they didn't, kind of thing. Cause I think I was on good money, to be fair, and I knew that I wanted to cut the budget, which is fine. And I think they always kind of expected me to move back to the league. But the only ones that really came up geographically weren't ideal because my daughter was starting school and it wasn't one that I could commute to. It meant us all completely moving. I just thought to myself, I wasn't ready to do that at the time for the family, because obviously there's more important things sometimes in football than the chance to play for Barnet. I thought, well, I've lived in the area when I was at Watford. I can travel there still every week, and I spoke to Darren on the phone, and I knew as soon as I put the phone down that I wanted to sign there, because I knew the setup and how he was honest with me and told me the way I wanted to play. And I knew from playing them the previous year before that they were only 1 or 2 players away from competing, and I thought if I can go and have another year or two just playing, that like I said, that'll be 150 to 200 games on the bounce, and I'm sure it'll stand me in good stead moving forward. So there was no hesitation in me going there.
He praised you a lot during our chat on the podcast, and he said that he would take you if he got like a league job, or if he got Barnet into the Football League, he would take you. What's your good relationship with him? And this season, of course, has now been it's voided now, and it's cancelled, say, the National League. But you enjoyed this season, your first season at Barnet?
Oh, I loved it. I've made some good friends. I think the gaffer and assistant, they've been they make the workplace good. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They've got their own philosophies and they stick to it. They don't change. They don't get drawn into wanting to play how other people want to play. They stick to their own philosophies, and they're just good people. And I think you know what you're getting. Obviously, I'm a lot older now, and I keep myself. I go down there. I go in the gym. I do my work, and this is what I'm saying to you for back before. I've learned different things over the years, and I approach it a lot differently now. And I'd like to think I'm one of the most professional out there. People call me busy and stuff like that, but I think you only get one shot at it, and if you want to get back to the top or back up high, I think you've got to do all you can. And I think the gaffer likes that. I think the gaffer just likes lads. There's a few of us that I think he could rely on every week, and I think he respects us for that, but we also respect him. I think because he's not long stopped playing, I think he knows the game still really inside out. And again, you know what it's like. You know what it's like as a character and a person for being at Ipswich, and he just loves football, and he kind of tries to implement that on all of us.
I think you're going to be 32 this month. Of course, goalkeepers, they go on until they're 40. Is that of course your goal?
Yeah,
hopefully. Touch wood.
Put the pressure on now. He's just signed for Juventus until he's 44. So, no, I think I feel really fit. Like I told you, I've changed up my program, and I'm reading a lot of stuff. Reading a lot of books, reading a lot of things that can give me that next step. I don't eat meat anymore. I just eat a little bit of fish, but I've not gone vegan. I don't know if I could do that, but I try and put days, definitely 50% of the week where I don't have any meat or fish. I kind of do half and half kind of thing with and I'm trying to do stuff that just give me an extra percent, and if it helps me stay fit and strong, and I can play, whether it's a number 2 or a 3 role somewhere, and or a number 1 role, and I just want to be in the game for as long as I can, and basically support my family, but not only that, and look after and provide them. I want to live my dream out. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I've got loads left in me yet. If you look at Ben Foster, look at the shape he's in at 36, nearly 37. So I'm not going to say I'm going to play in the Premier League or the Championship, but I definitely believe I could play in League One tomorrow. I definitely believe I've got a lot more to offer, especially now I've got an experience head on my shoulders. You've got to believe in yourself as a goalkeeper, and I believe I'd be a good asset, whether that's around the dressing room or playing for some club that's needed.
Well, Scott, thank you very much. I think I don't want to take too much of your time up, but it's great to go through memories and stuff. Is anything else that you want to sort of add?
She just ordered my little boy an Ipswich kit this morning.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, I was searching it around. I'll tweet it. I was just on the, I don't know why I was on the website, but I just saw it obviously in the sale, but they don't have the sponsors, do they, on the on the kids one? No. So I thought, well, this could, if I get them the size up, it'll last a couple of years, because it'll just look like a good Ipswich kit. So when he gets that, I'll tweet a picture of it.
That's brilliant. You've named some players that you still speak to. Is there a few, what sort of former Town players you still sort of speak to?
I've just got, obviously, just on my Instagram, I've just got Mingsley, I've got Scoosy, Chamber, and Dizzy. Yeah. But it's, I I actually thought the boys would. I thought the way they started off the season, I thought, well, they're going to return. But obviously, League One's a tough league now, and it's demanding, and week in, week out, it's at any level, it's not easy anymore. Football's changed, and maybe I don't know. Maybe the stop of the season's come at the right time, or maybe it hasn't. I'm not sure. It can just give everyone time to reevaluate, but. Be nice to see Ipswich definitely back in the Championship, that's for sure.
Have you?
You can say no one deserves to be there, but I mean, come on, let's be honest. The size of it, they're a Championship club, if we're honest.
Have you been back since? I know, of course, you've played, I think, and probably been on the bench, for like Rotherham and stuff. But have you been back since, just as a spectator or anything? I know it's hard for yourself.
No, I've not a chance. I was actually going to go watch them at Forest because I had an afternoon game or something one year. But we were away I was at Hartlepool at the time to get back, and that it just wasn't right. But it'll be something that I definitely do next time they're around this way, and I get the opportunity to.
From true crime to football, Brexit to folklore. For more great podcasts from Archon, head to audioboom.com/channel/Archon. Archon, head to audioboom.com/channel